what I have learned by like bringing AI into the talent acquisition hiring space, I learned like how bad our old processes are. Like job interviews, actually really bad, because it sort of filters out the people who are good about talking about doing the job.
As opposed to doing the job.
So we have this like competence versus confidence problem. Like people who like come off as like confident, we often think like, well, that person speaks so confidently about they must be really good. It turns out like that are more often than not men. And that doesn't mean actually they're competent. So we sometimes complain.
Us men? No.
Never.
What?
So, you know.
Little old us, Hilke? No.
As always, not all men, but a lot.
Us little old men? Ooh, acting like we know more than we do. Us? Come on, Hilke.
Mansplaining? What?
This is What Now with Trevor Noah. You based here? Where are you based?
Yeah, based at NYU, 20 Cooper Square. I live in Brooklyn.
Okay. Oh, what part of Brooklyn?
Greenpoint.
Greenpoint.
It's an old Polish neighborhood.
Why did your voice go down when you said Greenpoint? I did not say Greenpoint.
You caught me.
Greenpoint.
Well, it's very different. I've been in the same apartment for 16 years. It's been beautiful 16 years ago. It's still kind of beautiful, but the neighborhood is changing a lot.
But isn't it becoming cooler and younger?
Yeah.
Oh, that's what you don't like about it.
Well, I like that it was like kind of Polish, and you walk into a store and people talk to me in Polish, and I don't really know Polish. The only thing I know is like one line that's like "Nie wiem po polsku," and that is really bad in Polish, saying I don't understand Polish. But I kind of like that.
Wait, that's Polish for I don't understand Polish.
Well, it's very bad Polish, I was told. But it was enough Polish that the Polish realtor was like, whoa, I've never met a German who speaks Polish. I was like, well, I just said that I don't speak Polish. And it took me 6 hours from the train from Berlin to Warsaw to learn this one phrase, because Polish apparently is very hard. So I kind of like that about Greenpoint. And that's like becoming exceedingly less. But the uptick is like, the beauty of it now is like we have beautiful restaurants.
Yeah.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm just getting old.
I've never understood why people learn the phrase, I can't speak your language in another language.
Because you want to be polite.
And I think
but just speak your language.
It's a test on yourself to see how much you can learn.
Okay, but now think about what this says to the other person.
Yeah.
You've said to them in their language, you can't speak their language.
Yeah.
To me, what it shows me is you just don't want to speak my language because you've learned enough to say you can't speak it, and then you won't learn the rest.
No, I think that's like being really polite.
No,
you're like visiting them and like you want to be
think
nice
about
to them.
You've literally walked up to somebody and someone came up to you and they were like, I don't speak English. And then you're like, well, you did a great job there. And they're like, that's enough for me. Think about it.
I think we've done enough for this.
You're like, no, that's enough for me. That's good. Well, Hilke, welcome to the podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. This is sometimes, and maybe it's confirmation bias. Sometimes you'll see a thing in the world that confirms the feeling that you're having and the idea. And like a lot of us will be like, it's a sign. It's a sign. Literally coming here into the studio today, I saw these posters that are all over New York. It's a little QR code. And it says, AI, who are the winners? Who are the losers? And it's a QR code and I don't know what's happening. And there's all these different ones everywhere. And then they say, is your job next? Is your job next? And it's all like ominous. And it feels like it's promo for a movie, but it's not, I think.
So what is on this QR code? Did you check?
I'm not going to scan a random QR code. This is how your phone gets hacked. I'm not going to scan the QR. I just looked and I was like, yes.
I wish I did, yeah.
I was like, we're talking to the perfect person today because you have dedicated more time in your life than most people into answering this question. Like basically like, who are the winners and who are the losers? So like before we delve into it, it's like if you were to explain to somebody who you are and what your passion is in and around the topic of AI and how it relates to work, how would you introduce yourself to them?
Oh, wow. I guess I feel like, I'm an investigative journalist and I used to investigate all kinds of things and now I just investigate AI and I'm trying to understand like, how does it work in society and maybe who are the winners and the losers? But also like, I really think about like, well, it's changing the world of work. And I saw it 8 years ago starting and I was like, oh, I don't know if people are aware of this and somebody needs to look into it. And there was kind of nobody else there who was like looking into it. So I was like, might as well look into it. I'm just driven by like sort of curiosity, and I'm like, what is going on here? So now it has a little bit involved. Like I investigate AI, not only AI in hiring and in the world of work. I also build AI tools. I think about like how journalism will be impacted by AI and how we can maybe save journalism or a factual-based society when everything can be generated. So those are kind of things and questions that I think about.
I love the idea of being an investigative journalist, doing everything and then focusing on one thing, because then it makes me go, what was it about this one thing that you thought supersedes everything else? Like, what were the other topics you were covering before this that you just
I mean, I covered,
aside?
Violence against women in Pakistan. I went to Pakistan. I looked at like South Asia. I did all kinds of things. And I don't know, I had like one Lyft ride in 2017 in the fall. I was in Washington, D.C., trying to get from a conference that has nothing to do with AI to the train station. I got in the back of the car and asked the driver, how are you doing? And he said, I've had a weird day. In the history of me taking Lyfts, no one has ever said that. And I was like, really? Well, what happened? He's like, I had a job interview with a robot. And I was like, what? A job interview with a robot? He's like, yeah, he had applied for a baggage handler position at an airport, and he got a call from a robot that asked him 3 questions, and he was really weirded out. This was in 2017, so we are, light years further down the road of AI now. But I was like, I've never heard of this. So I started looking into it, and here we are. And then I went to a conference, and I was like, wait a second, there are all these like AI vendors in HR, and like it's being used everywhere, and no one talks about it. And whoop, down the rabbit hole I went. And somehow it doesn't let me go. I'm thinking about like the next 4 books on AI, the next research studies on AI. It just doesn't, I don't know how I don't know. I'm very bad at predicting the future, but I could tell that this is like a transformative technology that we need to pay attention to, and not only how the technology works, but its like societal implication. What does this mean if we use AI in hiring? What are the consequences of this? If we use it in journalism, how does our world change or maybe not change? And how does it improve the world or maybe not? And I was surprised that there isn't maybe a whole lot of improvement as we wish it would be, at least in hiring. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a little bit surprising, sadly. That when I first saw, like the first time I went to a conference and somebody was explaining how they do like emotion scanning on their faces and like checking the intonation of your voices to find out if you're going to be good at a job and like the words that you say. And I was like, wow, who knew that like facial expression in job interview could be predictive of your success at a job? Like what a way, like a new way of science. And then, we trust but verify as a journalist. So I trusted that information. And then I went on to verify it and talked to a lot of experts who are like, what? Emotion on faces?
Ways.
Like that doesn't exist to predict how good you are at a job. And
ways.
I was like, oh, that's too bad. Intonation of our voices. We can't really tell what kind of emotions you have. Like we can sort of like make a prediction, but that's not always really the case. Like, it's kind of when I'm in a job interview and I say I'm nervous and when I'm in a job interview and I smile and people, a facial emotion scanning algorithm would say like, oh yeah, she's totally happy. She's smiling. And I'm like, nervous. I'm not happy in a job interview. Who in the world has ever been happy in a job interview? So that's kind of like, it is a prediction, but we're using it to like sort of select people. Yeah.
It's just like your intuition. From what I hear, it's like your intuition as an investigative journalist was basically to say there's something deeper that's happening here. There's a world. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, totally. And somebody has to look into it. And for some reason, it just sometimes happens to be me who's standing right there, so I have to like take it on. It's like, when the chairwoman of the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, when I was talking to her about AI and hiring, and she's like, yeah, I do wonder. Now we have these like one-way video interviews, and the companies use the recording, run them through a transcription service, like speech-to-text transcription like you have on your phone, and then the AI predicts upon that transcription. And she was like, I wonder how good the transcription software works for people with accents, people with speech disabilities. I'm like, yeah, totally. And you have like a federal agency. You should totally look into that and study that. And she's like, oh yeah, I don't know. And I was like, okay, there's no one here. So I started to study it with the help of a research team, a computer scientist, sociology professor. I don't do this work alone. But so that's kind of the work that I do.
The more you speak, I realize this is how it sounds like whenever I speak to Trevor about technology. He knows so much about technology. I only know how to send texts.
But you send them very well.
Very well. Sometimes I send pictures as well with those texts. And an emoji, don't get me started.
But I've actually never heard you talk about AI now that I think about it.
Never. Because also I don't understand how much of it is in my life. And I don't also understand how much it scares people. So I'm even scared to ask people, what is it about AI that scares you? Because I don't interact with technology that much. So how would you explain to me what scares people and how much I've been using without even knowing I've been using?
Yeah. Well, we use it in everyday life. Do you have a spam filter on your email?
Nix. Hilke, I specifically said to you.
Well, it's like sort of the rise of AI has been everywhere, right? And it's really like software, really, what it comes down to. It's just sort of like maybe software on steroids. It does things better than we used to, where we say like, oh, if this, then do this. Like we have now self-learning tools that can sort of do translations from, we could now be talking in German or French, and an AI could just translate that in our voices, and an AI can generate that. So we see it kind of everywhere, moving into everything.
That's crazy. So wait, you're saying with the technology now, out of nowhere, we can just go from speaking English and then we just switched into another language.
In real time.
I don't know if it works in real time, but we can definitely do it. I can definitely do that.
Ja. Und dann du sprichst Deutsch und dann Eugene spricht Deutsch. Du auch?
Ja, ich spreche auch Deutsch. Siehst du, so gut geht das AI. Okay, you now have to emulate the AI.
I spoke nothing.
Your book really, I think, shook me up in the perfect ways, because you've written extensively about the world of AI, and what I wanted this conversation to do, because I try to talk to people like Eugene, funny enough, who I realize don't have the handle or the passion for tech that I have. And sometimes I think if you love tech too much, you're just focusing on like the tech side of it, and you're like, wow, the engineering,
the new tech.
And then when I speak to a person who's not into tech, they just go like, wait, what does it do for me? What does it do against me? And how do I need to think of its role in my life? And your book really broke it down, because one of the first things I noticed about your writing is AI is fundamentally going to change what the word job means. Do you know what I mean? Like job has constantly had like evolutions over time. Like people used to go like, a job is this, and like it meant using your hands, and people like, that's not a job. And the first people on a computer or thinking, they're like, that's not a job. And then now people go, that's not. But fundamentally, from everything I've seen you write, and obviously everything that's happening in the world, it seems like job itself is going to change. What have you found in your investigations on like how AI is changing what jobs actually are or aren't, like in different fields, lawyers, doctors, etc.?
Yeah. I mean, I think we already see some of it coming down. We already see some of the consequences of like AI infiltrating our daily lives. We see a lot of way less like sort of early career hiring, because I think a lot of times people who use AI a lot sort of describe it as like, oh yeah, I have like a little intern with me who does like a lot of jobs for me, right? Like they can write code for me. They can do, you can generate a research report of stuff that I need to know. Like I can generate emails, newsletters, like stuff that I have to write that, we maybe were going to giving to
set my calendar, book my flights.
Yes.
Yeah.
Remind me of stuff.
Yeah, totally. It can do a lot of that. We're still thinking about still looking into like agentic AI. Can it really book the best flight for you that you want? We're still working on that, but it can definitely help you like generate research, doing math problems, all kinds of things. So I think we see a lot of companies already moving towards like, having fewer headcounts, and sort of like I worry a lot about like how's this pipeline going to break of people doing like early entry jobs, how they're going to get the expertise and the wherewithal to like move up if we sort of take out the first layer of jobs. Maybe we just have to like upskill people. And
but how do we that seems to be the conundrum, right? Is law firms. Most of the people who start out in a law firm they've got their law degree, they go and work at a law firm, and it sounds like your job is just research, to like go through the paperwork and do the research and write up briefs and do this, but you're working for someone. But in that process, you're learning, and they're teaching you what they're looking for, and they're trying to. But if we cut off that level, then where does the expertise come from? You know, because we say upskill, but then who is doing the up of the skill?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's like sort of what I sometimes fundamentally think of, and, we don't have all the answers yet to some of these questions, if I may say that, is like sort of like what stays as a human in the age of AI, right? If like AI can do sort of what we think as like very human things, like if AI can write better than I do, how can I express myself? Like, and what does it mean for humans in a world of AI? Like, what do we bring to the table now that AI can do so many things for us?
Don't go anywhere, because we got more What Now after this. This episode is brought to you by our friends at SurveyMonkey. Eugene, I don't know if you've ever thought of starting a business, but every time I think about people who start businesses, I'm like, man, you need a specific kind of bravery. And by bravery, I mean terrifying uncertainty. Because think about it. Right now, everywhere in the world, there are people making massive life-altering decisions based entirely on a vibe, just a feeling in their gut.
That was me when joining the podcast.
You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But what if you actually knew the truth when you started a business? What if you knew your direct reports weren't just nodding along, but actually had thoughts that they were too polite to tell you? Or what if you knew that your best customers were already halfway out the door to a competitor? Because let's face it, we like to say follow your heart, but in business, ignorance is a very expensive hobby. The good news, Eugene, is that SurveyMonkey takes the fear out of asking and the doubt out of deciding. It's the difference between walking into a meeting with a hunch and walking in with 500 validated opinions, which mathematically is better for your blood pressure. The truth might hurt for a second, but it's cheaper than being wrong. So let's get you a survey and some actual answers. Sign up for an annual plan at surveymonkey.com/whatnow and use the code WHATNOW for 2 months free. That's 2 months free with code WHATNOW at surveymonkey.com/whatnow. You have any questions?
Is it too late for me to run a survey about who doesn't like you in the podcast?
What do you mean who doesn't like you? Like me?
Like you, yes. Specifically, the person in front of me.
I think surveys are supposed to be anonymous so that people's feelings don't get hurt.
But I did type anonymous there.
Well, I mean, now I'll know that you typed it because... Do you have a problem with the working conditions?
I haven't sent it.
But you want to make a survey about...
I haven't sent it yet.
You can just use the code WHATNOW to get 2 months free when you do it.
Instead of 2 months to complain about you.
I feel like this got personal. All right, Eugene. Let's play a little game. Make something fun. 2 truths and a lie. Mm-hmm. Here we go. 1, I've had to tell a world leader that their fly was undone. 2, when getting dressed, I don't do sock, shoe. I do sock, shoe. 3, I've been a Verizon customer for 11 years. What do you think?
Very confused. First of all, why would a world leader own a fly? Because those things just come uninvited. Secondly, lying to your friends is not cool. There's never been a game.
No, Eugene, a fly is for, like, the zip is what... And then it's not a lie. It's a game where I'm trying... It's like I give you information. Okay, I lied. All 3 are true, Eugene. And in case you were thinking, Verizon isn't as expensive as you think. In fact, if you bring in your AT&T or T-Mobile bill, they'll give you a better deal. And the reason I've been with them for this long is just because I travel so much. I need a network that's reliable. That's right, a better deal on the best network with the most ways to save on plans, streaming, and phone deals. Take your AT&T or T-Mobile bill to your local Verizon store today, get your better deal, and start saving for real. Based on Root Metrics' best overall mobile network performance, US second half 2025. All rights reserved. You must provide recent consumer mobile bill in the name of the person redeeming the deal. Additional terms, conditions, and restrictions apply. So, do you understand how 2 truths and... Do you understand it now?
I understand that you didn't have to lie first before telling me that Verizon is the best.
No, I wasn't lying. Eugene, it's not a lie. I wouldn't lie to you. It's a game. Okay, I'm sorry.
I lied.
In the job space, actually, I would love to know, you've done a lot of investigating, and I want to get into some of the stories because I think people will be fascinated by how humans have been affected by AI already. Is there like a concrete number on how much hiring is actually done by AI now and how much is human? Because a lot of people out there, if you told them, oh, hey, your job application, your CV, your resume, whatever you type up, it's not even seen by a human in some companies. Yeah, nothing.
Yeah, sorry. So we think
How
about
do you think you got here? You think if I knew you were coming, you'd be here?
If I looked at your
resume.
This
was AI.
You now have to say it was like shitty AI or something.
This freaks me out at every turn. Wait. So someone applies for a job.
So you like upload your resume, or you don't even have it uploaded.
Yes.
Like you already have it on LinkedIn, and you just hit the one click. Yeah. So
to the company I'd like to work for.
Yeah. So
right?
like all of these big platforms, they all use some form of AI. That I can tell you. We don't have like a central register where companies have to register and say like we use this AI tool or not. We just know this from surveys and sometimes me calling companies. So I know that they use AI. So you have to think about like the beginning of the hiring process. You often have thousands of people applying for a job, right? We call this like sort of a big funnel. And some companies, this is a couple years old when I talked to Google, they get over 3 million applications. IBM gets 5 million, over 5 million applications a year. So it's a lot of resumes that come into this funnel. So what we now see is like a lot of companies, and usually large companies, a lot of Fortune 500s, use AI to reject people, to sort of cull the herd of all these applicants. And like, so we see in the early stages, rejection, and like a few people going on the yes path for AI. And then doing like one-way video interviews, and now we have video avatars interviewing people.
Just break down, what is a one-way video interview? Because I think a lot of people, I didn't know what that was until
totally.
I read your work.
Yeah, I hear you. I've done so many.
30 seconds ago. What are you talking about?
No, but I didn't know.
Me?
Yeah.
So like a one-way video or audio interview, like, there's now a traditional way to do this, which is like 6 or 7 years old, where you don't have anybody else on, like, you kind of log in, you get a link, do this video interview if you want the job in the next 48 hours. So you click the link, and then instead of a human on the other side, it's on a Zoom call, you just like get maybe a video of somebody saying, hey, welcome to company X. We're so delighted you are here. We have a couple of tests for you. And then you get a question like, what are your strengths and weaknesses? Why do you want this job? And then you tape yourself, basically. You get like a couple minutes to prepare. And then you tape yourself like saying like, my strength and my weakness is this. And then I think all of the applicants I've spoken to think that like a human watches all these videos. Bless their hearts if they do. And some companies actually do have humans watch all of these, but some companies also use AI to rank people and do that. So we see that more and more, and we see this often in like entry-level jobs. We see this in like retail companies, fast food. Like it's called high turnover, high volume, I don't remember. So it's
jobs
in
that
jobs
generally have people where people are coming in quickly and leaving quickly.
Exactly.
Like they're not going to be there. It's not a career job. So people are going.
Sometimes it's a career job.
Oh, but it's just like high turnover.
But it's a high turnover, or you have like lots of candidates that you have to go through.
Got it.
So, for example, like Goldman Sachs said, a few years ago for their summer internship, they had like over 100,000 applications. So they have to like go through these applications and like narrow down the pool. So you use like resume screening AI. You use like video interviews. You can use games. We see like personality. These games are supposed to find your personality. While you're clicking on balloons, pumping up balloons, they find your personality, all kinds of ways to assess you without maybe putting in a whole lot of work, because humans are expensive to do this work. And also, sorry to say this, but a lot of humans, they do suck at hiring because we have bias. Yeah. We have human bias.
But I suck at hiring. But this is the conundrum though. Yeah. So this is the thing that's like weird now just for this part of it is my reflex when I hear something like that is to go, oh no, this is not good. How can you have AIs screening people's interviews? But then on the other hand, I go, if you have 100,000 people applying to a job, let's be honest, I don't think there's any human who's going to get through those 100,000 applications. I don't think there's any humans. And I wouldn't be shocked if there were like a bunch of humans who were skipping through this before, because they were just like, it's like auditions in a way. At some point, the person's tired.
Yeah, totally.
You want to get them when they're fresh. You want to get them when they're in the mood.
Yeah, not when
they're
hungry.
I wonder, is there a world where, like, does the AI make it better then?
I wish I could tell you that.
So we don't know.
We don't know. I've asked many companies to let me come in as a researcher and like sort of look at like, here's your traditional way of hiring, here's your AI hiring, and have this like run at both times, and then sort of double check, like, the people that the AI said that would be high performers, did they actually turn out to be high performers? And I have not seen a company do this or want to share this with me or with anyone. I think it's because, I don't know, there's like a lot of turnover in HR, like these processes don't work that well. And I think what we already know, so what we know from a survey of C-suite leaders, like sort of leadership in companies of over 2,000 in Germany, the UK, and the US, when they asked them, if your company uses AI tools, do they reject qualified candidates? And almost 90% of the leadership said yes. So they know that their tools reject qualified candidates. They still use it because I guess the efficiency from using AI versus humans, it's just much, much more greater. But it's not that we know that one process is better than the other. I mean, we do know that like humans are very biased in hiring, and even the best anti-bias training is not going to get out of it. And we all know the shortcuts, right? If you see somebody on your resume that they went to Harvard, you're like, oh, they must be smart. No,
they're not.
Probably.
Eugene, I feel like you just did like going down a rabbit hole. This episode, Eugene Koza learns about the world. She's like, wait, what are you telling me? But you go, so this is where I feel like we stumble on the first conundrum. Generally, machines like predictability.
Yes.
Right? Algorithms like predictability. That's what an algorithm is fundamentally sort of trying to do.
It finds like patterns and
a pattern is a predictability, right? The conundrum or the paradox of being human is that the biggest breakthroughs that have come from humanity have often come from the pattern breakers. The person who didn't think correctly, the person who didn't fit the algorithm, the person...
The outliers.
Outliers. So I wonder if companies in moving all of their resources towards efficiency and pattern recognition might go the opposite direction of innovation, because it's almost like the misfits and the mistakes are sometimes the ones who give you the biggest blips. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, totally.
I feel like the solution has caused a problem. Well, we were speaking about how many people had applied to Goldman Sachs, and I think if it wasn't for technology, would you still get that many applications?
That's interesting.
Would 100,000 people from all over the world show up at the address to put in their resume? So I think technology also allowed easy access, because I also think there's people who know they don't qualify but would do it anyway. So why would you put a human through all of this? But also I think it's a box ticking exercise for some companies as well. I think some companies don't want to hire anybody, but they'll just put out a thing that says we want to hire somebody. Then they'll end up doing the internal process anyway, because if you're going to trust people with people's monies and files and information, you'd want someone that you know. So I think companies know exactly what's going on, but they're just sending out hope. And I think once you advertise a job, it's a great way to advertise your company as well.
Yeah. I mean, sort of like people online, they often joke, because obviously some people are very aware that companies use AI, and now a lot of, I think it felt very like passive and sad for a lot of applicants until sort of LLMs and ChatGPT and other AI came around. Where now it's like much easier for me as an applicant to generate a resume. There's actually now
it's AI warfare.
Yes, it is AI
because
versus
it's like,
AI.
I'm going to use the AI to apply for the job. They're going to use the AI to grade me. I'm going to use the AI to pass the grades. Then they're going to.
I'm going to try to use AI to like outsmart the AI. There's actually AI programs that now apply for you. So you don't even have to do anything. So there's all kinds of stuff. But like the question is like, well, what are we then doing here? Like,
what are we?
Yeah. What are we doing? That is a great question.
That becomes the question. What are we doing? Because if the AI is hiring the people who are using the AI to get the job, that the AI has hired the people, then that's what I mean, is like we have to ask the fundamental question, wait, what was the point of this process in the first place? Because multiple studies have shown humans are terrible at predicting the future, especially when it comes to hiring, right? A lot of the time when you're hired because the person sitting across from you saw something in you that they considered correct for the company. But a lot of the time it's just wrong. Yeah. You know what I mean? It's wrong. And then people don't do well and they go like, well, that didn't work. But the prediction is wrong. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so now, I almost feel like we forgot what the whole point of an interview was. Like, I'm not a historian, but if I was to bet, I would think an interview was just to be like, let me see what your vibe is.
It was a vibe check.
It was a vibe check.
Yeah. But it turns out like vibe checks, not so great actually. Like because
At predicting who's a good employee.
Yeah, but also like a vibe check is like finding people who like are often like have the same background as you. They speak like you. They vibe with you.
Exactly.
So you find the same people again.
Yes.
Which, we kind of know that like diversity is good for companies. Also, like, I mean, I think that's why we have, fewer women, people of color in leadership positions, because we have underestimated them as humans in hiring for decades and promotion decisions. So we have like sort of a lack of diversity already because of human bias and sort of the vibe.
Yeah,
When you come to a job interview, you want nothing more but like somebody, like the HR manager or the hiring manager to like you, and then you start talking about like, well, what school did you two go to? Like, what did you?
Shirts. Oh boy,
you
it's
like this?
On.
You like this? Sports team, yada yada yada, and that chit chat feels like very good for humans to make a human connection.
Yes.
But it's actually really bad because that what brings the bias in. Because now as a hiring manager, I'm like, oh man, you went to the same school as me. It's so cool. I see you in a completely different light than other people, and I'm supposed to look at like what are the capabilities and like your skills that you need for the job. Not if you went to the same school, but we as humans do that, and that's where like a lot of the bias comes in. The unfortunate thing is you might think, well, AI is like a pattern machine that just finds patterns, right? And it will just look at your like capabilities, your skills, and find the most skilled person. But what we've seen in some of the AI tools, when I talk to lawyers and others who get access to these tools, when like an AI provider, they built the tool, an AI vendor, and a company may use their tool. Sometimes they bring in lawyers and do their due diligence, like how does this tool work? And what they found out is when the lawyers looked at it, that the tool used, some of these tools use kind of problematic keywords. So, for example,
there was the Amazon story that you wrote about.
Yeah, the Amazon story is one of them.
Pretty insidious.
So this was like if you had the word woman or women on your resume, you got downgraded because the tool had learned over time. You give it resumes of people who currently work here or who maybe made it to the last round of hiring, sort of labeling them as these are the successful people. Well, if you work in a tech company and you probably have a gender disparity already built in from maybe previous bias, you kind of replicate that, right? If the people who are in the role, if you use their resumes, the machine does what it does best. It looks for patterns and it finds out, wow, women are less successful here, so we should downgrade them in the hiring process. So
there were some applications in the story where Amazon was hiring people and their system basically went on its own, doing its job as it had been told. And it went, oh, I've noticed women's soccer team, women's baseball, women's anything does not match with the people who are currently at the top of Amazon.
They don't have that word on their resumes, basically.
Exactly. So this person is less likely to be like that person. So we're going to downgrade that. But this had nothing to do with your actual qualifications.
Wait, did AI do that, or did someone who put the input to the AI do that?
No, AI
there's
did
no
that.
input. This was a machine learning. Yeah, you have to think about like sort of present day AI. What we do is like we give the AI just the data we have and have it like we call it unsupervised learning. Have it like figure out what do these people have in common and who should we hire.
The best fit for here.
So it looks at like patterns in the resume lake that you give it, and I guess it scans all of the words. And then it does what it does best. It does a pattern analysis and finds out, one other example was like, if you had the word Thomas on your resume, you also got more points.
If you had the word what?
Thomas.
Thomas?
Like
the name
Thomas. Or like in another case, it was like words like Syria and Canada.
Those got you up or down?
That got you up, actually.
If you had Syria and Canada.
If you had the combination, you were hired.
Yes.
Wait, but now.
If your name is Thomas on top of that.
From Syria via Canada.
So here's my question though. Does that mean that are there tricks that people could use now? So if I was writing a resume today, could I just write somewhere randomly,
Syria, Canada.
passions, reading about Syria, Canada, I like it.
Maple syrup.
Thomas, you know what it is.
Thomas, and white.
Thomas, and then.
So I think the problem is that like most tools are like individually calibrated to each company. So
I could only get hired at Amazon by doing this.
Well, Amazon had that women's problem, but they say they changed that. They also say that their machine learning algorithm was never used solely to make hiring decisions.
But no one would say that it was.
Deny.
Like, I mean, which company would be? I don't think I've seen a single story where a company has come out and said, yeah, man, we were just using a computer to choose who was coming here. All of them go like, no, this was not the only thing. This was merely a pilot program that determined.
You know, the more you guys talk, the more I realize, are we under, you're a journalist, you know this, are we underplaying the role that biases have played in our lives? People choosing whatever it is that represents a certain group of people or a company even based on what they think the taste of the population or demographic is. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah. So you think in generally or in the hiring process?
No, in the hiring process. Because if you're going to work for a company and the person sits there goes, I think you'd be great here because of what. Now we're going, because I think bias is always, and I could be wrong, always comes in when we speak of race, gender, or religion. Once you've ticked those three boxes, we're like, yay. But how many places have we gone to where there's that mix because of someone's biases who decided maybe people who are 6 foot with muscles should be in construction and because they look like this, they sound like this, they talk like this, actually they'll be great for this job. So how many of us are beneficiaries of biases?
I think a lot of us are beneficiaries, and a lot of us also have been sort of the victims of bias, and probably unbeknownst, because you go in for a job interview or you send in your resume, and most likely is you get rejected, right? Because there's only so many jobs that are being given out. So the question is like, were you rejected? And I think most of us humans think, oh, well, I was rejected because I wasn't the most qualified candidate. Well, it might have been that you've been rejected because your name is Thomas. Or in one actually instance, there was the word African-American that was used to weigh resumes. In another instance, there was, if you had the word baseball on your resume, you got more points. If you had the word softball on your resume, you got fewer points. Damn. So that's probably gender discrimination, right? Because
I would give you 0 points for both. In my company, I would be fair. You say baseball, you say softball, I would detract points.
But Trevor, do you see how it's circled back? How those...
And this was really not a baseball position. You know what? And the question is like, what does that have to do with baseball?
But no, you know what? In a way, I know this is going to sound like a little crazy, but like, I can sort of understand these ones. And when I'd read the examples in your work, I would go, this sort of makes sense. I can see why they've made a mistake here and they can rectify it. But there are some examples that you've given that blow my mind. For instance, there's one story that you go into of a guy, I think by the name of Mike, and he's like working for Bloomberg, or he's like trying to get a job at Bloomberg or something. And please help me understand this, because from what I understood, I'll say it and then you let me know if I'm right or if he had to play a game like Candy Crush type stuff of popping balloons, and then he got fired because of how he popped the balloons?
He didn't get fired, but he did apply to a job.
Okay.
He was based in Barcelona and he was based in Barcelona and applied to a job in London. And he got a link immediately after applying saying like, hey, go to this link. And, I sort of feel like we as job applicants, we are sort of forced consumers of this tech, right? Because if you want the job and you get an email with the link saying like, hey, you have 48 hours, click on this link, play this game. What are you going to do? You're going to do it.
Yeah,
even though you were like, and he was like, while he was doing it, he was like, this is weird. Why is it asking me
sounds
this
like
question?
The beginning of a horror movie. Do you want to play a game?
Why do I have to do this? Like, it sounds great. And I think a lot of applicants technically like it better than answering 100 questions about like, are you the life of the party? Like, I'd rather pump at balloons. But when you realize, wait, is this the only criterion I'm going to be judged on? How well I like pump balloons? Or like in one of the games, I had to hit the space bar as fast as possible. And while I was doing that, I was like, you get like 15 seconds or so to do that. And I was like, what does it have to do with the job? Like, in what jobs do you have to hit the space bar as fast as possible?
Maybe it's like a company where like there's like big gaps between people's names. Maybe there's like Maybe you're working at a company where it's like suspenseful pause incorporated. Maybe it's like, I mean, I want to know what this job is now, where somebody out there is just like, ugh.
Yeah.
Maybe it's a company. Maybe it's a company that had to cut costs because all the enters on the keyboards were broken. And now they have to hire people who can use space to get to the next line because you can't just press return.
Well,
you can't just press, come on. And then that boss is like, we need people who can press the space bar. Get me the fastest space bar presses in the world.
We found them. But, what's interesting, like that suite of games was used by like multinational companies around the world.
We're talking like legitimate, not some random company. You're saying this is used by like big name companies. How fast can you press a space bar? And that's
it's one of the many games that you have to play. And they say they're not actually like looking at your capabilities of hitting the space bar. It's like finding out how much how risk averse you are, like what your personality is underneath this. Like, are you somebody who likes challenges or not? I guess
who
the space
takes
bar
any order that you're given. I'm sure even the time between you deciding are you going to press the space button or not actually maybe counts.
That's interesting.
Did you really think about this instruction?
I don't know if that counts, but I did talk to industrial organizational psychologist who said, we looked at all of those things. And actually the people that take longer until they start playing, they're actually less successful. But he said, we are not using that criteria.
Called it, my man.
Touch my feet.
Called it. You called it.
You did call it. But so we don't know exactly, but all of these, like every space bar hit and everything that I do obviously gets recorded somehow and can be used. But the question is like, on a good day, our personality is such a low predictive measure to measure how good we are going to be in a job, because it also turns out like I can overcome things in my personality, right? Like, I don't know if any one of you, like I try to, I used to be like really shy. I didn't like to talk to strangers. I know it's part of my job. I like calling people on the phone and chatting with them, but like going to like a party, like a reception with actual people I don't know, and like
sound like us.
Going up to them, it's like, I used to hate it. And then I was like, it's part of my job. And I made it a game to challenge myself. So I was like, I make games
what
for myself. What did you do?
You just walked into parties with a keyboard and you were like, how fast can you hit this space bar?
You win.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you. I'm Hilke. We can be friends.
This is my research. That would be. I should have done that. That would have been much more interesting.
But what were the games? What did you?
No. The game was that I have to approach strangers and like say
you
hi.
Did this for yourself?
And like yes.
Like, what was your reward?
My reward was just like, getting to know people and like learning about them.
I like this. So this was how you overcame it for yourself. You went, I'm afraid of speaking to people, so I'm going to make it a game where I just walk up to a stranger, speak. What happened?
That's what I tell my journalism students.
What happened when it didn't go well?
Well, I'm still here. So I was afraid I was going to get decapitated, right? People are nice and they're like, what the? But, I'm still here. And, sometimes people were just like, and like just left me standing there. And I was
like,
not
as bad as you thought.
Yes, but you see, this is AI again. Let's say if this was a program, you would score higher because you're a woman. It's easier for a woman to do that than a man to do that.
Oh, so that's interesting.
If I walk into a random room, then there's a bunch of women, then I'm like, hey guys, I'm actually playing a game where I'm trying to be social. Like, stranger danger, psycho. Oh, man. But for a woman, it's much easier. So the biases kick in again. If I go to a Midwest town as a black man from Africa, and I walk in there and there's truckers and I go, howdy, folks. No one's going to say hi to me.
That was a good howdy, though.
Yeah.
You like
that? Was a decent
you nailed
howdy.
That.
Howdy,
you nailed
folks.
that.
I'm in. If my eyes were closed when you walked in.
Close your eyes now. Howdy, folks.
Aye, who's that over there?
That was not bad.
I'm in.
Darn.
Once I look up, things might change.
So you see how biases is informing how what the outcome ends up being?
But it wasn't a bias challenge. It was just like a personality, like overcome challenge, right? Because we all have like certain things that we like to do and we don't like to do.
You were not biased. They were. On the receiving side of it, they were like, here's a woman. She's smart. She's nice. She's saying hi. Less threatening.
Yeah. That's true.
Exactly. So the bias is kicked in. So the same applies when an HR manager is sitting across someone who they look at and go, I wouldn't want to be stuck with you in an elevator on the 14th floor
but then
at 6 at night.
Yeah, but then that raises the question then, is there ever going to be a world without bias? And is that what we should be looking for?
Or, I mean, look, we can all wish, but we know that that's never going to happen. Like we humans are biases machines.
But now that the machines,
you're right.
But now that the machines are doing the job, could it be possible? And I know I'm not saying it will, but I'm saying could it be possible that the AI? Because here's what I think about in what you're saying. We're living in a world where we know that biases exist. We know. Right? So whether it's in courts, whether it's in law enforcement, whether it's in jobs, whether it's in schools, doesn't matter. We know that social settings, bias exists, right? Now AI has gotten involved. And we see the AI mirroring many of our biases.
Yeah.
But the difference is with AI, we can actually see it. We couldn't see it before and we couldn't like prove it. We had to conduct like weird studies.
Yes.
Before you couldn't say, this company didn't hire anyone because they didn't say baseball or because they had women or because they said black. But now you can actually look at the data and go, oh, damn. And I sometimes wonder if it'll be easier. And again, this could be the optimistic side of me, but I sometimes wonder if it could be easier for us to address bias in society because we actually have concrete data now that shows it, and we get to blame it. We don't have to blame each other. We'd be like, oh my God, look how racist the racist AI was to you.
Yes.
I'm sorry, my friend.
AI is a Trojan horse. You're right.
Is there? Do you see a world where that's possible?
Yeah. I mean, I wish companies would actually look at these tools more closely. I think the general notion, though,
that's interesting,
is they buy it from a vendor. The vendor sort of services the algorithm over time and make sure they still run and there's less bias. Like they check if there's like gender and like very basic racial bias in there, but they never look at like, does it let people with disabilities through or something like that, right? Like, and it also, we don't see a whole lot of companies actually checking how are the decision being made? And I think that's sort of where the problem lies. Like if somebody would look at the thousands of keywords resume parsers use to predict if you're going to be good at the job, they would find those keywords that are learned from lawyers and other places. And, those are keywords we shouldn't be using. We should be looking at like your skills and your capabilities and not if you are on the baseball team or not. Like, and I came to this as a human. I remember like for the first time talking to a lawyer about this and I was like, well, maybe the AI found something that humans couldn't, that like in this case it was playing lacrosse in high school that was like a predictor of success. And I was like, maybe it found out for this like whatever insurance job or sales job, it was really good to play lacrosse in high school. It found this like hidden gem that we humans couldn't. And the lawyer started laughing and he was like, God, you think like a human? I was like, really? What? He's like, it's a pattern machine. It does a statistical analysis. For whatever reason, like playing lacrosse in high school, a bunch of people who were in the job had that criterion.
Lacrosse, you come from a certain family.
It doesn't mean that like lacrosse has anything to do with your success. And in fact, he's like, well, if it's like playing team sports, what's with all the other team sports? Why weren't they included? Yeah. Why do you get more points for baseball and fewer points for softball? But it's essentially, I think as a non-American, it's the same game, just a bigger field.
Hilke's on my team, minus points for both.
Like how you saw pickleball and
beach ball. We call it beach ball.
Don't bring pickleball into this, please. Please, let's not bring...
Trevor doesn't want to talk about pickleball.
Don't press anything. We've got more What Now after this. Eugene, I don't know about you, man, but sometimes planning a romantic evening is one of the most stressful things because there's that specific type of performance art that comes with a romantic night out. It's like you're sitting in a restaurant and you realize you've just paid a premium to have a room of strangers watch you eat bread while you try and have a private conversation. It's exhausting, you know what I mean?
It is.
But I realized recently, if you want to skip the theater and the crowds, Whole Foods Market is the place to plan the perfect, indulgent, and romantic evening at home. Picture this. You see, you skip the extra trip to the flower shop, and instead, you explore the Whole Foods Market floral department full of gorgeous, quality flowers with large blooms, vibrant colors, and strong stems. Bunches, bouquets, and even vase arrangements are available. Ooh, why stop there? We can also skip the dinner reservation, start our sizzling hot evening in the kitchen, just us. We could serve a surf and turf made with quality, no antibiotic ever steaks, plus seafood that must be sustainable, wild caught, or responsibly farmed. We'll then pair that dinner with a bottle of wine from the incredibly in-depth Whole Foods market selection. Say cheers with a sparkling rosé, or choose ready-to-drink cocktails.
Yeah.
Must be 21 or older. Please drink responsibly. Taste the love all month at Whole Foods Market. By the way, that wasn't our date. I just got carried away, and then your hand was there. And then
I totally understand, but like they say, there's no free dinners. Clearly.
No, you don't owe me anything. We didn't even have the dinner.
I'm 41. You know what I realized speaking to you guys about this, because I wanted to know as little as possible about the topic so I can get enlightened in real time, is companies...
How's that going?
Very well, because I've worked in retail before in South Africa, and I've realized that HR has always been the enforcer and the goon of the corporation. Because when you come in, they're the first people to ask you, what do you like? But basically they're trying to see, do you want to fit in here and be here? And where do you come from first? And then when you get let go, you do what they call an exit interview.
Yeah.
And that will help them not hire a person like me ever again.
Damn.
So I use public transport. I went to a township school. So they knew that all of those factors, and my age as well, and how long I stuck around in that job. So they know the propensity of me sticking around longer or doing something wrong or right, according to them, is based on how long I stayed and where I come from and what changes I've made in my life since I started working there. So they could predict if someone earns this much for this long at this age from this background, the money will start becoming too little for them to be here. So AI now is doing that at a rapid rate.
Yes.
Instead of saying we don't want women, it will cut out words like soccer and blah and blah and blah and blah. And then the people that say those words, maybe they get hired because likelihood is they are men. How many kids do you have? How far from the job you live? And what are you willing to do for this job?
I was going to say, when you think about it, how these kinds of statistics and prediction works, it precedes AI by a long time, right? Like we know statistically that if you have a longer commute to your job site, you're much more likely to quit statistically. But is that fair? And, we've seen companies trying to use this, like zip codes and stuff, to then say, okay, well, we only hire the people that are live in the zip code right around our store location because they are less likely to quit. But, does it really have that's a criteria that has nothing to do with the job. It doesn't say anything about your capabilities and if you're going to be good at the job.
It only says something about your situation.
Yeah. And also, first of all, there are people who do a 2-hour commute each way and they do a fabulous job. So you're cutting out all those people and it's not their fault. And then on the other hand, you also have to look we live in very segregated communities in the United States. There's historical redlining. So if you start taking out zip codes, you might actually take out huge swath of African-American population or Asian-American population.
I think that's true around the world, to be honest.
Yeah. And I think
doesn't matter where you're from.
A real problem. And we sort of see this kind of statistical bias get replicated again and again. But now we have this layer of objectivity and we don't interrogate the tools again
plausible
to actually
deniability to enforce more.
Oh my God,
of the
how
biases.
did you know that? I think it's plausible deniability of the companies that use it and buy it from the vendor, because then they can't be taken, it'd be very hard to have a court case where you say well, you knew that your tool was biasing women, and there's 2 million people that apply to this, 2 million women that apply to this company, and you use the bias algorithm on them. So suddenly you have potentially 2 million claims. That's why we see sort of what I think is sort of a cloak of silence around this, because companies also obviously don't want to come out. I've had so many people who work in HR tell me after the book came out, oh yeah, we used that tool that you talk about, and we stopped using it, and I'm like, oh, really? I was like, well, that's good. I'm glad you did. They're like, yeah, we sort of realized we had the same questions. We found the same things that you found. And we just didn't think it was fair. And I was like, okay, can you talk about this? They're like, oh, absolutely not. But we need to learn. Like, we'll never get better. We can't put pressure on the vendors to build better tools if we don't know how the tools work and if there's any problems in the tool. I just looked at a fraction of these tools. Like, I tested some of them myself. I worked with like scientists to test them. I looked at I spoke with like whistleblowers and like lawyers who like work in the space, but I have just a sliver of the whole sort of world out there. Like, we need to do a whole lot more, but I don't think it's in the company's interest. They want something that, like sort of saves them money in HR. Mm-hmm. It's always a cost center. HR never generates money, or talent acquisition, however you want to call it. And so in a way, they want to save more money, have less labor involved. And they don't want to like hire people who now start like picking apart the algorithms. Then it might not work. And what are they going to do then? They just spend so much money in it.
So when you look at what they're doing, it seems like, and maybe I'm going to a dystopian conclusion, but I've read through some of the companies that you've investigated and some of the tools that they've used. It feels like it's becoming more and more pervasive. So first, companies just looked at what you submitted to them, your resume. Mm-hmm. Then companies started scrubbing what the world knew about you. And then now, because of the way data is shared, I'm even seeing stories where they're saying some companies may be able to go, as far as your social media. I mean, one of the craziest examples I saw, which I don't know how true it is like your Uber rating is a possibility in the future, which sounds like something China was doing or trialing, by the way.
Yeah, with the social.
Yes, remember that? Where basically in China,
social score. Yeah,
in China,
if you have a high social score, you get to travel and you get like certain benefits of society. But if you like jaywalk, or you visit grandma.
That's me.
No, really, and so. But now, when I think of that, I'm like, are we heading towards a world where a company can hire you or fire you, looking at your Spotify playlist, going, "Oh, this? Oh no! Oh no!"
Oh yeah. I mean, look, some psychologists say that like the way we behave is very predictive, and they can find certain ways. Like there was a big finding a few years ago, and I think it was like that a lot of computer scientists are really into manga comics. So the question is like, well, if you look at then resumes, should you hire the people that like mangas and because they're going to be good computer scientists? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But what is with the people who are great computer scientists who just are not into manga? Like, that's not fair to those people, right? So like that's sort of the problem with these shortcuts. But I sort of do feel like there is a dystopian vision that like I sort of felt like at one point I was like, wow, maybe at one point we're just not even going to do a job interview anymore. A company will just tell you if you're hired or fired, or if they don't want you, based on all of the social exhaust, the data exhaust we sort of leave around, and companies can predict who we are. It turns out we did test the sort of personality testing that is being used on social media. It doesn't work, but it's still being used. It doesn't actually stop people from using shitty technology. That's sort of the bad part here, right? Like,
but it doesn't actually work to predict what the people are doing. It does make me think of a dystopian world, though. Like, just this idea that you will be hired before you've applied for a job.
Yeah.
I just think of like us in the year 3000 or something, and a van just pulls up, the door opens, and they're just like, "Welcome to the job, Eugene. We know you better we know you better than you know yourself, soldier." And you're like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah.
But you might not even be wrong. In my conspiracy mind, I'm thinking that AI tools are just a big, giant facade for data harvesting. Companies know if what they are offering to the public is still viable. Learning institutions know who are the most likely candidates for them to start giving or keep giving the courses that they're giving, because we forget that higher learning institutions are just businesses as well.
Yeah. Oh yeah, totally. And so some of them use this kind of technology, like
to find out
one-way video interviews, like I mean, I think what fundamentally comes down to, it's kind of funny what I have learned by like bringing AI into the talent acquisition hiring space. I learned like how bad our old processes are. Like job interviews, actually really bad because it sort of filters out the people who are good about talking about doing the job.
As opposed to doing the job.
So we have this like competence versus confidence problem. Like people who like come off as like confident, we often think like, well, that person speaks so confidently they must be really good. It turns out like that are more often than not men. And that doesn't mean actually they're competent. So we sometimes complain about
No.
Never.
What?
So, you know.
Little old us, Hilke? No.
As always, not all men, but a lot.
Us little old men, acting like we know more than we do. Us? Come on, Hilke.
Mansplaining? What?
Wait, I think this is highlighting yet again the same point again of saying that biases have gotten us this far. I've often heard people who go, if I'm in a criminal trial and I'm thinking of what kind of lawyer to get, I want someone who's talkative, who's out there, who's loud.
Yeah.
But the person who handles my finances must be quiet, reserved and frugal, and they'll know how to handle my finances. You know what I'm saying? So
We have
an
never heard
idea.
about this talkative lawyer, but I'm sort of
we have an idea.
You are someone who goes razzle dazzle. We've seen the lawyers that represent rappers
Charisma.
and charisma.
Yeah, you want, and it's interesting to exactly what you're saying. If I hear you correctly, you're saying, in a way, it seems like we are expanding and scaling on a foundation that was already broken.
Yes, absolutely. The way we hired was already broken. Like job interviews are broken. Like sort of looking at, and resumes have very little predictability because like you put certain like things, you need to have this skill and this skill in the job, and then and you put that on everyone who applies for the job. 99% of the people will have that on their resume. So and you can't find like things like teamwork. Are you a good collaborator?
Yeah, you don't know.
How are you going to know that from a resume? How are you going to know that from a job interview? You can ask like questions like, well, tell me how you overcome, really a challenging situation at work. But you can train for that. Like the best way, one of the best way to predict if you're going to be successful, this will come to no surprise to anyone, is to put you in the job. And then you can find out if you're going to be good at the job.
Hey,
that is,
look at that.
Totally doesn't work for most companies to hire 100 people and then let 99 go at the end of the month. But sort of my hope sometimes is like, wait a second, like we have virtual reality, like we have other ways, like could we put people in the jobs and actually have them do the jobs, the most important parts of the jobs, and then figure out
just
like
see how they actually are at the job.
And I think that would also give candidates a way to sort of understand better what is this job actually.
Have you suggested this to companies? Because I like this idea. I really do. I really do.
I do.
Think about
I think it turns. I do think it is a little bit more complicated than just what I'm saying. Because like a lot of jobs have different. They have like different capabilities and different things that you have to test for.
Right.
And some of that is hard to test, but we need to be better. Or some like total cynics in this world have sort of suggested, you know what? If you want to hire, use a random number generator because that is at least fair. You have the same fair chance as you to get picked. Obviously,
it's
everyone
also a way
is
to go bankrupt as a company. I mean, that's like I'm all for like, but that's also like chaos. There's random and there's chaos. You know what I mean? If you're going to say to people, a random number, just bring the person in. I don't.
If they have the basic capabilities.
Okay. So you're going basic capabilities, and then like you've got the qualifications. Then it's random. I'm in for that. Okay. I'm down.
Yeah, try that.
I'm down. Wait. So, but you know what I want to move on to is like we're talking a lot about hiring.
Yes.
Your work really delves into keeping the job, which I think a lot of people aren't aware of and might even be more terrified to find out about.
Oh, yeah, like, what we see, the surveillance at work.
Like for instance, and I know there was an explosion of this during COVID, once people were working remote, and then companies were like, we need software to know whether people are actually in their underpants or not, and we need to figure out like what people are doing at home. But now, companies are starting to deploy AIs that not only see how like active you are, but they try to predict whether or not the company should fire you, not based on what you're doing now, but what the company thinks you might want to maybe do or not do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's often like, it's called like a digital neighbor or something. Like sort of like the idea is like you are a vice president of sales of North America, so there might be a vice president of sales in Europe. And one of them is like might be more successful or not. That's actually kind of vague and hard. But for the sake of this example, we'll assume, okay, maybe the European person is better at their job. And so then an AI will like sort of take in all of the digital traces that you leave, how many emails you send, how many Zoom meetings you attend, are you a bully in Zoom meetings, do you speak up? Like it can kind of assess a lot of different things and then tell the person in the US like, hey, the person that has your job in Europe and like sells more or whatever, like is more successful, they do this. Why aren't you doing that?
Damn.
It's sort of like a clone of like looking at all of everything that gets recorded. And, it's sort of like, I don't know, we have different ways to be successful. Like maybe you write 500 emails. The next person is successful by doing like 100 in-person meetings a week. That's probably not possible. But, maybe they do 50 a week. Who knows? But we sort of, and, what does it mean to be successful? Like we had this like whole thing, probably don't remember this, and I might be dating myself, but there used to be like algorithms in New York City to assess teachers like 20 years ago or so. Like every parent was like, I want to know how good my teacher is. Well, it turns out like these algorithms were terrible. And a lot of teachers were like put in rubber rooms because their students didn't gain enough knowledge in a year. But it could be that they were already at the top.
Wait, the teachers were put in what?
They're called rubber rooms when teachers were not in the classroom anymore, but they were still on the payroll of the Department of Education. They called them rubber rooms at the time.
Rubber rooms.
Yeah.
Because in my head I was like picturing a room.
Like, they had to go somewhere to
I was like a room made of rubber. What
no, it sounds like a cell. I think it wasn't a cell.
Okay, no, because you just went through that. You like they put the teachers in rubber rooms, and then I was like, wait, they did what to them?
So
they just called it a rubber room. Huh.
I don't actually know the history of that. Good question.
Yeah, I want to know.
You want to know about the rubber rooms?
Yeah, no. If someone's taking me to a rubber room, I want to know what a rubber room is.
I would actually.
You would love
take you to the rubber room.
Oh wow!
Oh my god!
Wow.
I don't know if I want to go there.
Wow!
You're gonna get paid for free. You don't have to do nothing. Wouldn't you want to be in a rubber room at some point?
Play squash.
Good
place
in a rubber
room. Place
room.
to fall in a rubber room.
I still can't believe how digital peeping Tom and the digital tattletales is just everywhere now.
Yeah. It is everywhere. I mean, it starts like super benign with like your green light on your email, like are you active or not? That's sort of like a way.
Yeah.
And then we see when people realize, oh, everything gets recorded. We see sort of what we call productivity theater. That people like
slow it down. Did you say productivity theater?
Yeah, it's like sort of gaming the algorithms. So you
like
sort of
acting like we're busy.
Exactly. So like in the morning, like you check in on Slack and be like, hey, everyone, good morning. Like 7:45, crazy. And then you turn around and take your dog for a walk and then you don't show up at your desk at 10. But smoke and screens. You were productive at 7:45. An algorithm will now be able to understand that you haven't sent any emails in an hour.
Can I tell you what you've just done, though? You have, in a single sentence, unraveled one of the greatest mysteries I have struggled with working in an office. I remember the first time and only time I worked in an office. I was always shocked by how some people were just constantly sending emails and messages. And I always felt like they were unnecessary. And they were always at random times, sometimes on a weekend. I was like, what? But now when you put it that way, I go, they weren't working. They were trying to maintain the appearance of working.
Productivity
So
theater.
you just like, you send a message at 6 a.m. and people are like, man, you up at 6 a.m.?
Yeah, wow. Emails at 3 a.m. What the?
Well, you just don't stop working.
Yeah. And, I do think that
Meanwhile, you just left the club.
Send.
Schedule send.
Schedule send.
Schedule send.
Schedule send. Look at this.
Yeah. But, think about it. Like the office was like sort of always a place to look for productivity, right? Because you had a manager look at everyone who's working. And if you left early, that was not so good.
Yep.
Even though, we know that some people just like sat at their computer, surfed the internet and didn't do any work, but they were physically at their seats. We didn't have the technology to actually like sort of see every one of their clicks and what they're doing. And now we do. And sort of we can sort of look at everything you do. But like the question is like, is this kind of analysis really meaningful to understand how many emails you sent? Does that actually have anything to do if you are productive or successful? And what does successful in this job mean?
Those computer systems you're speaking about, I remember reading about how warehouses are also using it. Like this is something that I hope people understand will be pervasive across all jobs. Because if you work in an office where you're using a computer, they can track your clicks, they can track your typing, see what you're doing and how you're doing it. But in warehouses, I've seen that now they're deploying AI camera systems that see how many employees take bathroom breaks or don't take bathroom. I swear, how long you spend in the bathroom, how quickly you actually move one package over to the next, they look at that.
Productivity algorithms. How many like items do you put in a box per minute, per hour?
Now imagine your bladder is the reason that because you've got a smaller bladder than another person, you're getting fired.
Technically, that would be illegal, but
but they wouldn't say it's because of that. Because they would just go like, you take excessive bathroom breaks.
Yeah, or you're falling under your productivity.
Exactly,
algorithm.
Because the other people around you, they're hitting these numbers. Why aren't you hitting those numbers?
As a conspiracy theorist, I'll always say, who Hilke is benefiting from this? Who is because I look at COVID. And you explained to me how tough COVID was in the city.
Yeah.
But if you look around the world, how many running shoes have suddenly become in fashion? How many running clubs, how many running apps are being used? How many outdoor activities, hiking, you name it, that people are now having invested themselves in and investing a ton of money in because they missed being outside so much because it was taken away from them. Could it be that people that fund startups are now having the time of their life because they realize there's these educated people who are trying to get into the job market with these kind of expertise and these kind of interests, but maybe they're not going to get in there. So how about we give them a hand and make money out of them?
Sure. I mean, I think like the way we see like this kind of technology benefit is usually the companies because that's where the money is, right? Like is an individual like going to buy success company like success AI, like we don't really see it. It's not really a market, right? Like this the same way for like job applicants, there is some AI where you can sort of test your resume and the job description, but we see like vastly outnumbered AI for like vendors, the people that make the employment decisions, those folks, because that's where the money is. Like I sometimes dream of like, we were talking about bias and I was like, wouldn't it be cool if you have like a bias detector in job interviews that pings the hiring manager, like stop talking about your schooling. Like, this is like where bias creeps in, or at least analyze afterwards. So you get like real-time feedback, like, hey, you shouldn't really ask those questions. Like stick with the structured interviews in a job interview, for example. And we don't see that because I don't think there's really a market there to do that yet. I sometimes feel like, wouldn't it be cool? Like I have a young kid. So like if you're like a parent and you have a little AI who's like, hey, you really shouldn't get so upset with your kid. You should really say, I like how you did this and this. But like, I think a lot of parents wouldn't want to do that because as soon as you have the data, somebody else, like Child Protective Services or wherever, can come in. Show up and look at that and be like, the way you talk to your kid, no good. Like no one wants that, right?
You're not fit to be a parent. We'd love to hire you as a manager at our company.
How's your bladder?
You have the personality to enforce the algorithm.
So actually, let's talk about that then. As somebody who's investigated and gone down all of these rabbit holes, as somebody who's seen how AI is affecting who gets hired and how you get hired, who gets to stay in the job and how they get fired. Yeah. As somebody who's done all of this work, I'd love to know what you think some concrete solutions could actually be, like where we see progress, where we see solutions. Is there something, let's break it down. Is there something lawmakers can do? Is there something that companies can do? And then is there something that just workers can do?
Yeah. So I do think there's room for improvement in all levels.
Yeah.
So I do think that there could be better laws here. For example, what we see, the funny thing is like, I am originally from Germany, but I remember talking to the former head of talent acquisition at Vodafone, which is a huge telecommunications company in Europe and other parts of the world, not so big in the US. And he was laughing. He's like, you know what? Like, we use AI in hiring now. And when you want to upload your resume, there's like Germany and the rest of the world, because Germany has this one funny thing that, like, once you're working in a company and you have, I think, more than 5 employees, they can have a workers' council. It's not a union. Sounds like it, but it's different. And the workers' council, there's actually a law, and they get to co-decide technology in the workplace. So some of the surveillance technology we don't see happening in Germany because this workers' council has to be notified, and I think a lot of companies shy away from using some of this like very intrusive AI tools. But in the United States, for example, like anything that happens on a work computer belongs to the company. So like, don't do it like private Slack messages, like private surfing, like all of that can be recorded by the company and it belongs to them.
Yeah.
So you want to be very careful of that. So I think there needs to be many more privacy protections. And I think companies should be mandated to tell their employees what kind of software they use in them. So for example, like some of it is like very basic, but like if you suddenly print a lot, that might be an indication that you're at flight risk. So maybe the company lawyer should be looking into what you're moving away from your computer. Like those kinds of like sort of digital telltales. I think companies should tell us, and maybe there should be a way for like employees to co-decision making. Because some of the time, if you're working in a nuclear power plant, maybe you do want AI to scan for like exposure to radiation. I would want that. Like, so there might be cases where this is like actually really helpful, and maybe everyone agrees that like, you know what, printing is a problem. You shouldn't be printing so much, and you shouldn't like move files, and that could be an indication that you're leaking. Yada yada yada. Like maybe we can make a decision together, but we don't see that. So it's like all top down, and people are these kinds of tools and decision makers are being used on them, and they don't even know it. And I think that's really unfair, and there's no way to push against that. I think also like companies need to be much more skeptical when they buy these AI tools, not believe the hype that this is going to solve all their problems. They're going to hire the best people. Like actually show me the evidence. Like show me how it works. I'd be happy to look at it. I'd be open to it. Like maybe an AI is better. Wouldn't that be great? But we need to know. We don't actually know that kind of stuff. So we need to interrogate these algorithms, understand the processes underneath them, and really critically assess them. I think that's where maybe humans are coming in this world. So we need to be much more skeptical there. And then as like the applicant for jobs, that's the hardest part, because there isn't necessarily something you can do except like call your congressperson and sort of be aware of what is out there and like try some of the tools. Like, there's definitely better ways to like have a machine readable algorithm, and there's things you can do. Yeah. But when like 5,000 people apply for one job and they close the job description after, they close the job portal after 24 hours. Yeah. There's nothing we can help you with there. Like it's sort of like a bigger societal change to be much more skeptical about these tools and put pressure on lawmakers, decision makers to do a better job here and to just be more transparent. Like one of the stories like of Martin like came through because he lived in the European Union and knew about the laws, and he asked for the data. Like there is a general privacy protection law, and you can ask for your data that companies have on you. And that's how he found out that the company used AI, which was against the law. So he got a settlement. He actually started a case. So that was like a gold mine for me. I call him patient zero, because he's sort of the first person who like encountered these kind of AI tools in the hiring phase, and then actually got the data on himself. Right? That's like gold to me. So we could sort of unravel and talk about the case because we had the data, and we don't have anything like that, at least on a federal level in the United States. So there's like way more work to be done to make this better. And I do think in general, I think we talk a lot about like sentencing guidelines with AI to send people to prison. Should you get a mortgage? And I think those are all very consequential decisions, and we absolutely need to take a closer look at those and look at them critically. But I also think hiring is really important too. Like it matters if I can pay the bills. Like it matters if I can put food on the table. Like also like happiness is tied to our jobs for many people. Like we spend enormous amounts of hours at our jobs. So like it better be something we kind of like at least. So it matters if I get the job or not. So we really should be scrutinizing these kinds of systems if it makes decisions on humans. If it makes decisions about my spam and it doesn't work, I'll find another spam filter. Like fine, great use for AI. But for hiring in these critical human decision makings where human lives are at stake, you got to be much more skeptical, scrutinize these tools. And then we probably have a chance of building a better world.
Well, I will say there's one part of the equation I'm very grateful for, and it's that we have an intrepid investigative journalist who's doing the work. Because
Thank you. Sometimes you wonder, like, does my work have an impact? But I do think sometimes, when I show people, like my videos from 8 years ago about like the emotion recognition of facial expressions, and they're like, wow, that could be so easily biased. And I was like, wow, I guess our work sort of like has made a difference, because 8 years ago, we were all looking at like, whoa, who knew? This is so cool. And now everyone is like, oh, wait a second. Like if there are only like, more men than women in the data, and I was like, wow, there is like sort of a much more education around AI and bias and all of those things. And I think it has made an impact, slowly but surely. Slowly but surely.
But I'll tell you, now I know for my next job, I've got something to think about when we get out there in the streets. And from my side,
please work with me on hiring. Let's do some.
Thank you very much. From me, from Syria, from Canada, and Thomas, we just want to say,
let's
thank you very much
on hiring.
Let's do it.
And see how it works.
Hilke, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for watching the episode. If you enjoyed it, pass it on to a friend. If you didn't enjoy it, pass it on to your friend still. Let them suffer for a change. And don't forget to engage with us in the comments. If you want to suggest a guest, maybe there's questions you want, maybe there's ideas that you have, you can chat to us. We will read through the comments and we'll get into it. Either way, I appreciate you taking the time. Thank you for hanging out with us on What Now? And remember, we do this for you, so we would like to hear from you. Till next time, thank you.